kid who swings a golf club like a dream. I'd like to try to qualify him for the U.S. Amateurs.
Coming to Apple TV Plus.
What's your name?
I'm not into older guys, but I'm flattered.
A new comedy series, Stick.
I don't want to go on this trip.
Your mouth's saying one thing, but those eyes are saying something else.
From the home of Ted Lasso.
This is your shot at redemption? This is your mulligan?
Owen Wilson.
This game takes and it takes. The game's finally giving me something back.
Stick.
You know Arnold Palmer?
Iced tea, lemonade, mix it.
I'm missing a nap for this.
Streaming June 4th on Apple TV Plus.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Coming up on this week's Rap Podcast, it is Jamie's very last Rap Podcast. He has promised us that, so it's going to be worth sticking around for. We'll have a little look at the international touring squad, a quick preview of the Scarlets game, and then the all-important predictions that we made at the start of the season to work out who has the crystal ball and who has crystal balls. Let's get on with the show. You're listening to RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Welcome back to this week's edition of the RAP Podcast. We are rapidly nearing the end of the season and we're getting short of rugby to talk about. So there is only Scarlets left playing. So if you're listening and you're waiting for the rugby stuff on the Scarlets, that's at the end. So you listen through and then it's at the end. And for everyone else, if you want to listen into the Scarlets preview at the end, then you're very welcome to. Other than that, we are, so as you might have just heard, it is Jamie's last Rap this evening. So Jamie, how long have you been doing it? 2, 3 full seasons? 2.5?
I thought it was 3. Didn't I come on board you've done this for 3 years and I was on board for the first season, wasn't I? So
yeah, but it was November time. It was before November. It was October time. So it's virtually,
it was like episode 3 or 4 you joined in.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't far down the line, was it? Yeah.
No.
When are you paid until, Jamie? Are you paid until...
I wish. I bloody wish. Not a chance.
So he's going to be doing the new Dragons official podcast now.
So now that Jamie is taking a back seat and just focusing on Dragon's Lair, and we'll talk some more about Dragon's Lair later, I can bet that. So Dan, who's been stepping in for Jamie, will be kind of permanent from summer onwards. And but Jamie's not leaving the family. He's just having one more night where he doesn't have to do a pod through the week. So on that then, Jane, your very last news desk, if you can, please.
This is very emotional for me. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. My last ever news desk. It won't be my last ever.
The special tune.
Oh no!
Oh, yeah.
No, don't egg him on now. Don't encourage him. Oh dear. I was going to say I don't think it will be my last ever news desk. I can see myself popping up on Rap for the odd episode. But,
blood replacement.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
didn't you say last week that it was your end of season Dragon's Lair like a week or so ago, and then you just did another one on Sunday?
Yes, I said we were doing no more episodes, and then we lied because we did another one. We unexpectedly did one with David Buttress, which we'll talk about later. But yes, this is definitely my last Rap Pod of this season. I can confirm that. So news desk then. So it's that time of year now where the clubs are releasing their leavers list. we're saying goodbye to players. So let's start with Cardiff then. They've announced theirs. Thomas Young, Seb Davis, Tinas Tabia. We know they're gone to the Dragons. Gabriel Hamer-Webb, that's a disappointing one to lose for Cardiff, but he's been linked with a move to Leicester in the English Premiership. Regan Grace hasn't worked out, unfortunately, with the injuries. Rhys Littrick, we know he's gone to Scotland. Ethan Daniel, Ray Lilo, still say he's one of the greatest ever overseas players ever to play in Welsh rugby. Yep, he's leaving. And Gwilym Bradley. Now, there's no Talupe Faletau on this list, which is good news for Cardiff and Welsh rugby. According to Wales Online and other reports, he's negotiating new terms with Cardiff, so it'd be great if they could keep Faletau because he is still world-class, even at 34. And in other news for Cardiff, Cardiff prop Danny Southworth has been given a 3-match ban for being sent off against the Stormers in the final URC game of the season. That will be reduced if he graduates from tackle school, of course. But yeah, no surprise he's got a ban. Is fair enough. But
can I just jump in on a couple of those? Sorry, James.
Yes, go ahead. No,
First
go
of all,
ahead.
the Ray Lilo thing. He is retiring as a player, but apparently he's still going to be hanging around the club. So there's rumours that he might be popping down to the ranks or being sort of involved with the academy as sort of a mentor type player. And the Danny Southworth, the bugger ruined our first clean sweep season of no red cards. For about 6 years, bastard.
Oh, fair play. Didn't realise that. Right, Dragons leavers list. 14 players leaving the club. Big clear out. Take me a while to get through all these. So Dimitri Arhip, Tane Basham, Dane Blacker, Joe Davis, Lloyd Evans, Ashton Hewitt, Paula Latu, Dan Lydiat, who's staying on as a coach, of course. George Knott off to Cardiff, Will Reid off to Worcester. Had a lovely message off Will Reid. Fair play to him. He thanked us for the support on Dragon Slayer and he wished us all the best. Really nice guy. Hope it works out for him at Worcester. Josh Reynolds, Josh Thomas, Jordan Williams, and George Young. And it's not confirmed by the Dragons yet, but there are reports from Wales Online that Australian centre Harry Wilson is going to be leaving the club a year early. Not entirely surprised it hasn't worked out. He is on high wages, apparently. I still think there's a player there. I really do, but unfortunately, it's not really worked out. So it looks like he'll be going back to Oz and have a flop overseas signing. And Dragons announced this evening on Monday that Kai Evans has signed a new deal. I'm a bit surprised we've kept him, to be honest. I probably would have preferred to keep Lloyd Evans, but the club do rate Kai Evans quite highly, so he's staying. Scarlets news, only news I've seen coming out of Scarlets is that second row Morgan Jones will be leaving the club at the end of the season. So Morgan has made 65 appearances in a Scarlets jersey. So there's all the departures. In other news then, which is quite surprising, did not see this one coming. Warren Gatland, remember him? He's taken up an advisory role for Uruguayan rugby side Penarol just 3 months after ending his second spell as Wales head coach. So reports from South America are saying Gatland will contribute to Uruguay's bid to reach the Rugby World Cup with a qualifier against Paraguay in August before potentially play either Chile or Brazil for a place at the 2027 tournament in Australia. Penarol became Uruguay's first professional rugby club when they were founded in 2019. And they provide the majority of the players in the Uruguay national side. So, yeah, an interesting one. I did not see Gatland go in there. What else have we got? 6 Welsh players have been nominated for the URC Next Gen Player of the Season award. A lot of these are from the Scarlets League. Blair Murray, Ellis Mee, Max Page, Dan Edwards, Gabriel Hamer-Webb, and then Ivan Owen. So there's 16 nominees in total, 6 being from South Africa and Wales, 2 from Scotland, and 1 from both Ireland and Italy. So congratulations to those Wales players that have been nominated. I think that's all the news I got now. Apart from the Wales squad. Unless anything else you want to mention?
We've announced our leavers list, very short.
Obviously,
Tipperick is obviously gone into coaching.
Yeah.
The others were Owen Williams is widely rumoured to be going to France. I think the biggest shock, maybe, or surprise was Tristan Davis, who's a youngish back row player, blindside flanker, quite athletic. He's been let go as well. And I'm hearing that there might be another West Walian club interested in him.
It's a short leavers list, though, isn't it?
Very short.
Only 4. Did that surprise you there? Because it surprised me.
Well, when we've got the Erie, we're recording the Erie tomorrow, our seasonal review, and it's quite difficult to to work out these days. We've got to sort of give a caveat that we assume that it's a long-term contract these days. It's 2 years. So from what we can work out from previous, announcements, there's quite a lot of players who still haven't been announced to be continuing with the club or to be leaving. So I don't think we've seen the end of it. That's for sure. They're obviously still in negotiation. We'll watch this space over the next couple of weeks, I guess.
The last couple of seasons, they haven't announced any. People have just left and turned up at other clubs, and then they've not announced any. So maybe it's a club policy thing. Maybe it's a thing they just don't do. So.
Bit of a question for Lee. So just going back to the Scots leaders, this Morgan Jones, like, considering that's probably the only second row they've managed to bring through in forever. Like, is it a bit of a worry that they're having to buy in another import with Jake Ball, bringing him back, and then the one they've developed, they're letting go, who I thought actually was kicking on really well last season.
Yeah, but it's a difficult one because you want to give people the chance to show what they've got, but then you've got players like Lousy, Fafita plays second row, Plumtree plays second row as well. So you've got a really high bar to hit. And yeah, I don't know. Yes, it would be lovely to see more players coming through, but we don't grow them that big in West Wales for some reason. Maybe the wind knocks us over. I don't know. But I was always classed as a big player, and I was 6'3", so I was always put second row, and I had to fight to say no. I was back row, and that was semi-pro. So I know guys who are 6'1", 6'2" that are playing second row around Pembrokeshire. So yeah, we just don't have a massive amount of really tall, hefty, big lump props. Tons of them. Tons of props, little short fellas, nice, round, strong, chucking the cows and the cattle about, not a problem at all. Big, strapping, 6'6", 6'8", hefty lumps, just don't breed them that much. So yes, it is a shame for him to go, but I'm not entirely surprised, in all honesty. So anyway, Julius.
Just one more bit of news then. You know how the Welsh Rugby Union are looking for this chief growth officer? It's not going well. The Daily Mail has said the Welsh Rugby Union is set to look internally for its new chief growth officer after a long and frustrating recruitment search for the key position. Basically, they couldn't find anyone. That's what they're saying. At the time when the game in Wales is struggling badly, both on and off the field, the WRU wanted to foster a high-profile environment to raise commercial revenues. But as of yet, no new appointee has been named. Didn't Abby Tierney say on the Scrum Fight podcast they were close to naming a chief growth officer? I'm sure she did. But anyway, they haven't found anyone. It says, Rugby Confidential understands current chief financial officer Leighton Davis's role might be modified as a result. So it's pretty worrying, isn't it? They put out this search for a chief growth officer, raising revenues, and it sounds like they haven't found anyone. So they're going to look internally and modify the chief financial officer's role.
Basically add that bit to his job description.
Yeah, it sounds like. But it's worrying that they haven't attracted anyone.
Totally.
To any high caliber candidates. Yeah. Very worrying, I'd say.
Ironically, it might be part of the issue with they've been having in finance, which has seen them cut lots of other programs, including pulling out of GB7s, the Exos program, offloading the women's sides, the women channel sides to the club pro clubs. So you might just see it's just them thinking, well, hang on, if that's one big wage we can save.
Maybe, yeah. The Exos decision is bad. That's a bad move, that is, isn't it? Like they said, they're going to save 5 million potentially, but I think that's such a short-sighted move to cut the Exos program. Really bad.
I know quite a few people that have gone into it that maybe haven't come out the far end, but they stay in touch with Welsh rugby. It's not just about finding that one or two elite players that will come through the system. It's also about connecting young kids with Wales and their homeland. And I think that's more detrimental in the long term. There's maybe, 100 players or whatever at a time being monitored and watched and coached. and you're just going to lose, 100 players every couple of years that have got no connection to Wales now, and they will go on and play for English clubs, Scottish clubs. They will be in their system, and there'll be no pull to come back home. So,
yeah, it's a worry. These are some of the players, by the way, that came through the Welsh Exiles programme. Archie Griffin, Freddie Thomas, Johnny Williams, Tane Plumtree, Tommy Raphael, Sam Costello, and Blair Murray. So, we've developed gems coming through the Welsh Exiles programme, and they're going to scrap it. And I think it's a bad move, personally.
But they also take people like Louis Rees-Zammit, who officially, when Louis Rees-Zammit was in Hartpury, anyone in Hartpury is monitored by the Exiles program. A lot of them are tied to clubs, but they're monitored by the Exiles program. Anybody around the country that registers when they fill in their registration form, and there's a bit at the bottom that says which countries do you qualify for, that will come through to Exiles, so they kind of monitor that remotely as well. And then if somebody is popping up and saying, hello, I'm half decent, they'll go and have a chat. So, there's a lot of threads to the Exiles program that we don't really see, we don't really kind of know, but they're there. They're definitely there, or they were there.
Again, I think that's going to be palmed off to the regions, and then basically say people like, particularly like the case of like the Louis Rees-Zammits and Manny Boso as well. I know Gruff was saying he was keeping contact with anyone who started off in Cardiff Academy and went off to England. He was, he'd try and keep in touch with them as much as possible. So I'm wondering if they basically say, you do that, and then Rob Howley mops up the rest in his sort of fabricated performance development role.
Anyway, shall we move on to the Wales squad, Jim? Should we have a look at the Wales squad?
Absolutely, let's do it. Feels like old news now, though, doesn't it?
It does. I just wanted to share this before we start. So, before we go on tour, this is where we are as a I can't find my bloody cursor now. That's annoying, isn't it? There it is.
It's a little bright, over there.
Hang on now. There we go. See, all this modern funnel tang stuff. Right. So this time last year, June 18th last year, Wales were 10th in the world, just above Fiji, Japan, and Georgia. And when we head on tour this year, we are now 12th in the world, beneath Fiji, Italy, and Georgia, just above Japan. So when we talk about, this maybe not being the most important tour and using it as a development tour and what have you, if we lose to Japan, then we sink below Japan in the world rankings, possibly, depending on how other fixtures go. We could be down 15th, 16th, which is just unthinkable, but that's where we are now. We've already fallen. You say we've lost how many points? We've lost 4 points in the last 12 months. It's genuinely unthinkable that we do that again. Genuinely. So let's have a look at the tour squad. So Nick, let's start with you. You can do forwards, mate. Anything in there that you like the look of, you're shocked of, you're missing someone? What are your thoughts on forwards?
I think it's basically what we've got available. I think obviously, once Dav Jenkins was going to have elective surgery over the summer, perhaps a little bit light in the second row. What I do like is both not just in the forwards but in the backs as well. It's rewarded people who've been consistently good over a couple of seasons, not just somebody who's been good over a couple of games. There is a very much a thing in Wales that if somebody has 2 good games, they're suddenly a world beater. So I do appreciate that. Alex Mann has come back well, so I think he's deserving of a place. Ratty's a very, very consistent, good player. Whether he's quite big enough to be an international second row is another question. But obviously, we're not playing against the biggest team in the world in playing Japan. I like Garen Phillips. I think he's had a really good year. I think Ben Carter's a lot of potential, and he's come back strongly from a bad injury. If you remember, he was in the original Autumn International squad, and I think he did his knee, was it, Jamie, on the first day in training back in November.
Wales training, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So after that, I think, the only one I think possibly, and I don't quite get, is the non-selection of Morgan Morse. He's still eligible for the under-20s, but I'm not picking it up because they've announced a 45-man training squad, and he's not in that either. So whether he's been told to go away and work on something and get bigger, I don't know over the summer. But it seems a bit strange that he's not involved at all in either team.
Can I just cut in with that one? Who'd you drop in the back row?
I don't know, and I can get that, but Plumtree is playing well at the moment. Best I've seen him play. Certainly, I think maybe it was whether Faletau was going to tour or not. Obviously, Faletau is still world class, so I take your point. One of the bits I don't understand is he missed a lot of this season through injury. Why he's not then going to be selected for the 20s and to finish off his, and have some competitive rugby over the summer. That's the one I don't quite get.
Okay, so the name I'm going to throw in that I'm confused by is Chris Coleman.
What do you mean?
I mean, yeah, explain, Jamie.
So, look, anyone who listens to Dragon Slayer will know that I haven't always been a fan of Chris Coleman. And believe me, I was just as surprised as everyone else was when I saw his name. However, I refer you to Danny Wilson's comments. So Danny Wilson was asked about Chris Coleman, and he said, and I quote, Adam Jones had a big say on our selection, and he did a lot of work in terms of looking at the footage. He's somebody who falls into the bracket of, let's have a look, because he started a lot of regional games. He's a big man, and he could be one for the future. So people can say what they want about Chris Coleman. Like, I'm not convinced he's an international player, right? But if you've got the approval of Adam Jones, then you must be doing something right, because it's a pretty good endorsement to have, isn't it? So he's identified something in Chris Coleman. He's obviously looked at the footage and he thinks, yeah, there's a player there. So I'm delighted for him. I'm pleased. It sounds weird to say Welsh international Chris Coleman, though, doesn't it? I'm not going to lie, it does. But do you know what? Like I said, I'm pleased for him. And who are we to argue against Adam Jones? He knows the stuff, Adam Jones. He knows what he's talking about with scrimmaging. So if he says, yeah, I can see a player there, I'm going to trust his instinct. And it'd be great for Chris as well to work with someone like Adam Jones, because you'd think he'd be able to, get the best out of him and show him a few tricks. Danny Wilson as well is a very good forwards coach. So I think it could be very beneficial for his development, for him personally and for the Dragons, by working with these coaches. I don't know how much game time you'll get in Japan, but yeah, he could be a Welsh international, returning to Rodney Parade after Japan tour, and that's something I never thought I'd say.
What I will say is Henry Thomas, Scarlett's prop, is going for an operation as well. So he's not going for an operation. He's got a condition that he needs to sort out. So
which probably just seems a euphemism for I'm having an operation.
Yeah, he's got something that's not going to keep him out too long, but it needs to be done. Okay, so
I just want to just go, because one person who one of the uncapped players in the pack, Liam Belcher, who I think just want to shout, for all the work he's done in Cardiff, come from like sort of that third choice squad player to essential of the Cardiff pack. It's just nice to see him there. Adds a bit of leadership in a fairly weak spot. I mean, I'd be surprised again. If I can say Wales international Liam Belcher, I'll be so happy. But I don't see him pushing past Deal Lake unless there's an injury. But it's just good to see his some very long-standing form recognised.
Another former Dragon, Jamie, in the squad.
Yeah, we only had him for one season. I talked about this on Dragon's Lair. He came to us under the Bernard Chapman era, came from Cardiff, was with us for one season, then went back to Cardiff. And it's like I said on there, when I first watched him at Dragons, I thought he was a bit small. I thought he was okay. He wasn't bad, but I thought, he went back to Cardiff. And as I said on Dragon's Lair, the past 2-3 years, he's been outstanding for Cardiff. He's a real leader. And people overlook this. He's a very good captain, Liam Belcher. He's always chipping away. His communication with the refs is fantastic. He's always chipping away in the ear. You watch him, you watch Cardiff. He's always like that at the ref all the time. He's a really good communicator, very good captain. And
it does
fair
remind
play
me
to
of
Jockey.
Sam Warburton and his peak, his pop. Like Sam Warburton's best thing, particularly towards the end of his career, was how well he could get a referee on side.
Yeah, absolutely. But what Jockey has done, which Gatland didn't do enough of, in my opinion, he's actually picked players who are in form. That's what he's done. So yeah, okay, the likes of Liam Belcher, Chris Coleman, we don't know if they're international standard, but they're playing well. Guys like Dan Edwards, Keelan Giles has been fantastic. He deserves a call up. Ruben Morgan Williams has been brilliant. These are guys on form for their clubs. And that's a good thing. I think Jockey deserves a lot of praise for that.
Yeah, and also, as I said before, they're not just doing it in 2 games, they're doing over 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
Yeah, they've been consistently solid for their clubs.
So when you look at the pack, you've got Belcher, who's the captain. You've got Dewi Lake, who's the captain. Josh McLeod, who's the captain. And Aaron Wainwright.
Ben Carter.
Oh, yeah, he's captained as well. But Wainwright's captained as well, isn't he? There's a lot of good kind of leaders in that pack. And we haven't been able to say that for a good couple of seasons. But
You had Alex Mann under 20s. James Ratty, I'm sure, has captained Ospreys in the past as well. Falatau, I don't think he's a good captain, but he has done captaincy. Teddy Williams is future. I still think he's going to be a future Wales and Cardiff club captain. He's just got something about him for that. There's a lot of people in natural leadership, and in the pack you've got some you've got Kieran Hardy's your experienced 9. I mean, Ruben Morgan Williams is a player I've been calling for going into Wales for basically my whole time on the pod because I think he's just that good. Ben Thomas is quite mature, is a very mature player, is also captain. There's a lot of leadership in this, which is something we're really lacking. But it's impressive there's so much leadership in what is still quite a young squad.
Yeah. Okay, so Harley, you get to look at the backs for us then. So
I love how you always give me the backs, even though I don't have any clue about backs at all. But
but by now you should have twigged that this is what's coming.
Yeah. So nice to see Cam Winnett being brought back in the Wales squad for his form. Blair Murray not good. I think probably the big headline people are saying is Ellis Mee not making it, but I think for him it's probably a shootout between him and Giles. And I think overall, with his experience at pro level, I say Giles probably just edges it. I think Ellis Mee, people before the Six Nations was like, huh? Why have they called him up? It's just because Gatland thought he was massive, whereas I think Giles more fits that left wing role of what Jockey wants. And then for right wings, you've got Josh Adams and Tom Rogers, who are that slightly more physical, really good aerially, high ball. And then you've got Max Page, who can sort of come out. I know Lee's preference thinks he is an out-and-out winger, but I think Max Page has sort of come in as a sort of shadow 13 company. We're probably looking at Joe Roberts and Johnny Williams fighting out and out for that 13 jersey. Ben Thomas, you'd assume likely nailed on 12, just because that's what Jockey likes in his back line. Other than that, it's nice to see Sam Costello back in the Wales squad. He's come back from injury and looking really good for the Scarlets. So he doesn't pick anything up this weekend. Other than that, Roger Williams carrying on, and the back line is just the same as the forwards. I think it's a load of players who are all on form. You could probably argue for this player or that player, but I'd say it's horses for courses for me. Jockey's picked what he prefers. As I said, the centres will be the interesting one, because I'd say if you are going for Ben Thomas at 12, who you pick at 13 changes how you'd imagine Wales play, really. So you've got Johnny Williams, who's going to give you that strike runner physicality in the back line. Joe Roberts, a bit more creative, defensively most solid of all the options you're probably going to put there. Max Page, who is incredibly raw. I'm still not sure he's defensively right there at this point, certainly at club level, never mind international, but is undeniably quick and it applies a lot of gas. And when we've played Mason Grady in there, that's sort of what we've used the 13 and just hope the defence holds. I mean, it's kind of exciting because I'm not entirely sure how it's going to go, and we could see two completely different backlines for the 2 tests. I said I think the interesting thing will be if we win that first test, what Jockey does with the second. Because if you win that first one, the pressure's off, effectively. Not I think he's under too much pressure.
What about Maxwell, because that's a big omission for me. Remember there was that hoo-ha, the big fuss when he was left out by Gatland. Jockey brought him back for the Six Nations. Now he's omitted him again. I was very
not been
surprised
fit
not
for
to
Gloucester,
see.
though. That's the thing. He's been sort of injured or sort of carrying something, so he hasn't really even been playing for Gloucester. Whereas, at least with the likes of Max Page, he is playing most games for the Scarlets at the moment. I think part of that is injury enforced more than anything.
But he would have been available for this tour, though, wouldn't he? He would have been fit to play for this tour.
Well, they don't. I don't know. I don't know how bad the injury is, but it basically kept him out of the end of Gloucester season. So
I think the interesting bit
maybe Jockey thought he knows who he's going to have as his first choice partnership out of these players, and it's one thing to note. One important thing to note is Jockey seems to have swung away from Gatland, who was tending more and more towards picking the non-Welsh based players, and he's gone back to a much stronger core of regional players.
I think the interesting selection combination will be between 10 and 12, because, like you said, everyone seems to cream their pants over having Thomas at 12. Yeah. But if you have Thomas at 12, you've got two very creative players inside him, and you almost negate the need for a creative 12, where you've got Costello and Edwards who can both do something that's a little bit more creative than where we've been in the past. So you've now got a creator and a creator, and your strike runner is now at 13 instead of at 12. So it's almost kind of like that. Those either the 10 and 12, the 12 and 13 have got to be able to swap, which is where Johnny Williams would come in on a crash ball, or you don't put Ben Thomas at 12 and you bring a strike runner in at 12, which is where Max Llewellyn would have come in. So for me, that who do you put at 10 and 12 and how that works will probably be the big learning from this tour is, can you put two creative players at 10 and 12 and still have gain line ball to work off? So that's
Cardiff have managed it.
The only
season Sheedy Sheedy's arguably quite a creative 10 is with this range kicking game. I'd argue with Sam Costello and Dan Edwards, you've probably got two players who are a little bit younger, a little bit fitter, and let's be honest, better goal kickers.
Well, it's not difficult.
Jockey can run a backline to have. He likes having two creative. He likes a creative 10-12 axis. And what you also get with Sam Costello and Dan Edwards are two very brave defenders who are all both very competent, which also takes pressure off of Ben Thomas to cover both channels. So you are going to get that. I said it will be a question of how you get that 30. You get that 13, the blindside winger into that channel, or you're going to have to use forwards. So one thing I've noticed in that back five is they're all very dynamic players. There's not really anyone who's just a bit of a lump who trucks it up. Like James Ratty, probably the closest to that mould, but even then, he's still quite comfortable out on the edge. So you've got forwards who will go up the middle and will go, and you can have them coming up in that 12-13 channel and can make yards, or they can make yards on the wing. I know Beard and Rowland's been rested, but I'd argue probably on form, the second rows we've picked are arguably playing better. I would certainly suit that more dynamic game plan better.
I think the only danger is, and obviously I've got nothing against Ben Thomas. I'm a bit on the fence in it, but he's got to go back and coach Ben Thomas in Cardiff post. So I think it's very unlikely that anybody else will be playing 12 other than Ben Thomas, because of the relationship between Sherratt and Thomas post Japan tour.
I don't think it's that much an issue. Otherwise we'd basically be a Cardiff squad going out, but it's not as 8. You've got 8 Ospreys, you've got 8 Scarlets.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think one thing Jockey's quite good at is the man management side of things. He's not perfect, but he's someone who can bring people with him and sort of say, "This is why I haven't picked your stuff."
No, Nick Tompkins. Can't believe we're not talking about Nick Tompkins. No, Nick Tompkins, the Wales squad.
I was hoping I wouldn't have to talk about him, to be honest.
we have to win in Japan.
Yeah.
I think Jockey had a free pass in the Six Nations, rightly so. Came into a very difficult situation. He doesn't get a free pass from me on this tour, I'm afraid. It's a must win. Simple as that. No excuses. He's picked a good team. These are 2 winnable games. Japan are beatable. Wales have got to win. Simple as that. This losing run has to come to an end.
50 on the run, isn't it?
You can see down the bottom, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see fixture dates, 5th of July and 12th of July. So they are, I'm just checking the kickoff times now. Yeah, 6 a.m. and 10 to 7 for the second one. So the one on the 5th is at 6 a.m. UK time, and the second game is at 10 to 7 in the morning UK time as well. So an early start for all with that one.
Great for those of us with very young children.
Yeah, if you got kids, you'll be up at that time anyway, so it won't matter, will it?
Right. Okay. Well, while we're talking about the summer and things like that, so just to give everyone ideas of where we are and what we'll be doing, each of the feeder pods will kind of be wrapping up what they're doing. So Nick's got a whole 4.5 hour presentation with Dicky bow ties and what have you planned for this week. Harley, you did your Cardiff one this week as well. Jamie
well,
did.
I didn't. I wasn't there for that one, but yes, no, that went out. That went out today as we're recording. Yeah, no surprises for who we've picked for our joint players of the season, which has gone out to a Twitter poll you might have seen on our socials. Because we can't decide between Teddy Williams and Josh McNally, which someone did point out. When was the last time you'd have thought a second row, let alone a pair of second rows, would be player of the season for Cardiff?
So, and Jamie, you've done your end of season and then another end of season review. So the feeder pods are kind of wrapping up. Obviously, the Scarlets one. So the Scarlets boys did a preview of the Leinster game last week, rather than just try and stretch it out for this week as well. So they'll be back for as long as the Scarlets are playing, and then they will do a review of the season as well on that, and we will kind of keep going, and as long as there's rugby to talk about, we'll keep going, and then we'll definitely be back around about the week of the 5th of the 7th, and then hopefully we'll do a couple of, and then we'll park it then until start of next season, which is lovely. So while I'm talking about YouTube and what have you, there are some stuff, bits and bobs that'll be changing through the summer. But if you are liking what you're hearing and seeing, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be very helpful, and it'll give you all of the best of Welsh rugby. And we know we're the best boys in Welsh rugby because all the other pods and newspapers nick what we say. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yes. Indeed. 2 articles on our Buttress special. Nothing from the Argus, though. Very disappointing. But to be fair, Wales Online does have a much higher readership, and it won't be behind a paywall like it would be at the Argus. So, yeah.
And Chris Cohen is an actual proper journalist. He does proper journalist things like work his own stories.
He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. Yeah.
Right. We're going to do a quick kind of roundup and review of our seasons as we have been so far. And I thought what we'd do is we'd have a quick look at each of our regions' kind of awards. So these are the awards that have been dished out and have been by the clubs already. So, yeah, Jamie, you're first up, mate. Anything in here that you want to kind of pull out and say how amazing that was? Might be a good time to talk about the awards ceremony and your interview with David Buttress as well.
Okay, well, starting with the awards ceremony, yeah, a couple of notable winners. Academy Player of the Year was Evan Minto. He's been very good for Wales under 20s, as we know, and he's done well when he stepped into the Dragons. Try of the season was Hugh Anderson's effort against Newcastle, but that was pretty outstanding, wasn't it? Young Player of the Year was Ryan Woodman. Very interesting that Philo Tia said this week that they've overused him because of injuries, so he was never meant to play as many games as he did, and he was playing out of position as well because he is a back rower, and there were occasions where Dragons were having to play him in the second row, and he's not really effective there. He hasn't got the grunt or the physicality to be playing second row, but he did a decent enough job. Coaches player of the season that was Anira Owen. I've spoken on Dragons there. I think he's been quietly brilliant in a very poor side. He gives everything every game, 100%. So yeah, no surprise. And the players' player of the season was Alan Wainwright. Of course he was. So no surprise there. Yeah, that was the awards. In terms of the pod that we did, Dragons Lair, yeah. So we did a interview with David Buttress, which is out now on all the podcast platforms, YouTube. It's going very well. We've had a lot of very positive feedback about this podcast. It was very honest from David Buttress, as you would expect, very candid. I don't want to give too much away because I want people to listen to it. But he talked about not attending the award ceremony because he was so annoyed with the season, which I was a bit taken aback by, I have to be honest. I wasn't expecting him to say that. He admitted that the board got recruitment wrong, and he held his hands to say, yeah, we got recruitment badly wrong. He admitted the Dragons have a mentality issue and they need to sort it. And he said that some players need to be, shipped out and bring in players from winning environments. He spoke at length about the PRA and the reasons why he decided to sign it. I did grill him and push him as hard as I could on that. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but a lot of people have said to me that I did very well grilling him as I did. I didn't plan on tripping him up, but I did want to push him a bit more on the PRA more than any of the subjects. I think it was really important for people to understand why Dragons signed that deal. Because I don't want to get into it now, but I've had a disagreement with one podcast in particular on Blue Sky. There's a lot of shit being said about the Dragons that's unfair and factually incorrect. And what I would urge people to do is don't just read the Wales Online article. So we've had 2 Wales Online articles about the pod that we've did with David Buttress. And yes, there's a lot of sound bites in there and stuff, but I want people to listen to it. I urge actually Ospreys and Scarlets fans to listen to that pod. And if you don't like what David Buttress said, or if you don't agree with him, that's fine. But it's really important to understand the context about why they signed and the reasons they've done so. And me personally, I'm happy now that we've signed the deal because I think it was the right thing to do. And David explains why it was the right thing to do. These allegations that we signed our own deal, we didn't inform the other clubs, is absolute bullshit. David explains all that. They were very open and transparent with the other clubs. They told them that they were going to sign before they told the WRU. They told the other clubs why they were signing. They told them about the letter. The letter was shown. The signed letter went to the WRU. They did everything right. They were open and transparent, but the West clubs decided not to sign it. And that's fine. I'm not going to criticise them for that. And I don't think they should be criticised, just as I think Dragons shouldn't be criticised for signing. They have done what's right for the business, stakeholders and supporters. It's as simple as that. And I know there's a lot of people saying awful lot of shit about this, saying we're scabs, saying we fucked the West clubs over. No, it's bullshit. It's bollocks. And I'm not having it. And I'm sick of it. Sick of reading about it. It's not true. And I want people to listen to that podcast. So, yeah, it was a very informative podcast. And yeah, what else do you want to talk about? Are you talking about the season now or just... What else have I got to talk about?
Yeah, I know talking about the season was going to be hard for you, but just kind of, picking out some of those players. And if there was a moment through the season where you thought this is going to be a good one,
After the Ospreys game, honestly, I did. No, look, as David said on the pod, I asked him about the season. I asked him to give his reflections on it. His words were shockingly bad. And I think we can all agree with that. But there are reasons why the Dragons season was so shockingly bad. First of all, we've had a lot of injuries. We've had consistently between 17 and 20 players out injured almost every week. That hasn't helped us. We parted company with Dave Flanagan. Not great timing, the first block this season. That meant that Philo was pulled from being defence coach to head coach, which then meant we didn't have a defence coach. And then we're shipping a load of tries. So that's the reason why we're short on the coaching staff. The recruitment, it's been well said, everyone knows, was a disaster. And due diligence was not carried out. again, David Buttress admitted that. The chairman, to his credit, has said, we did not do our due diligence. Only Shane Lewis-Hughes has been the best out of all the signings we made. He made 19 appearances, which is more than I thought, to be fair, because Shane Lewis-Hughes was pretty injury-prone at Cardiff, wasn't he? But he has been fantastic for the Dragons. The rest of them, I mean, Funaki, we didn't even see him. Didn't make a single appearance. Cummins made 6 appearances. We've signed duff players. Unfortunately, we didn't do our due diligence. However, recruitment is looking a lot better for next season. Whether these boys are going to elevate the Dragons and push them on. I mean, David did say that he wants to try and qualify for the Champions Cup, and I pushed back on it. I was like, hang on now, David, that's a bit optimistic. But he was saying, well, you've got to have targets. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of me being here if we can't push on and have ambition? So I get it. I get his point of view. But, the league table doesn't lie. Dragons were 20 points behind Zebra. 20 points. I'm not surprised Dragons finished last because, let's be honest, Dragons have been flirting with the bottom for a couple of years now. And me and you, Lee, to be fair, we consistently said about Zebra, didn't we? We said that they were going to cause a few bloody noses and they'll get better. That's something we've both been consistent on. But I never thought we'd be 20 points behind Zebra. It is hugely disappointing and embarrassing. But fair play to David, he owned it. Pushed him on it and he admitted, yeah, we got it wrong. So there's no excuses. Next season has to be better because it can't get any worse, could it? Let's be honest. We cannot have another season, and even he admitted this, we cannot have another season like we had. It's not good enough anymore.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that one. I'd agree with that one. I'd agree with your points. Scarlets fans, Ospreys fans. I'll talk about the video later as well. But there's a lot of sound bites, and sometimes you actually need to do a little bit of work yourself and read stuff and listen to stuff and understand what's going on. So,
Sorry, Nick, can I just ask a quick question before we move on? I'm going to ask this to you and Nick, okay? And I want an honest opinion, right? Nick, I'll start with you. As an Osprey fan, right? And like I said, be honest, do you think the Dragons fucked the West clubs over and we did our own shady deal? Because if you think that, that's fine, be honest. But do you think that's what's happened?
No, I don't. What it sort of probably is asked, I've been thinking about more about this, is I need to have more detail why we didn't sign. And obviously Lee will talk about the Scarlets. But at the end of the day, we're independent clubs. And if where we're sitting today, the Dragons are in a stronger position than the Ospreys. They are, as David Buttress, I have listened to the podcast, and I totally agree. It's very worthwhile spending a little time listening to it. The Dragons know where they're going to be for the next 4 or 5 years, and they also know, more importantly, what their funding is for the next 3 years, whereas the Ospreys don't. And for me, it's the politicians get involved, and that's all well and good, and they're saying the right things, but unless there's another seismic change, which can happen very quickly in Welsh rugby, the rugby union have said that we're going to be we're going to be a team that's going to be on less funding than the Dragons and what assumes Cardiff. So no, I don't feel that at all. I think you've done what you think is best for the Dragons, and that's first and foremost what should be a priority. So I don't feel that at all.
Okay, fair enough. Lee, your thoughts as a Scarlets fan? Because this is the narrative we're getting from the vocal minority of Scarlets and Ospreys, that we fucked the West clubs over. It was shady, under the table deal. And it's absolute bollocks, as you know.
Yeah, and it's come because, let's say, people aren't actually looking at what's being said. They're taking those sound bites from the Click Kings and going, right, okay, well, they said that means it must be true, and it's not. It doesn't. They're saying stuff that actually isn't there. They're giving an opinion and dressing it up as a fact, whereas actually, no, it's not. It's a bit like me saying, see my black T-shirt. Yeah, well, actually, that's dark green, and you kind of go, is it? And I go, no, this is my dark green T-shirt. My T-shirt is dark, and I keep going on and on and on and on. And you boys would go, do you know what? If he wants to say it's dark green, just let him. Yeah, it's dark green. It's dark green, and it becomes the narrative then that this is my dark green T-shirt. Yeah, that's where we are. Where people are saying things over and over and over and over because they want them to be true, where they're not. No matter how much I want my T-shirt to be dark green, it's black. The WRU are committing to 4 sides. That's what they're going to do. All the rest of it is just fluff and bollocks that people get paid by winding people up and setting them against each other, and that's what's happening. And at the minute, it's the Dragons getting the arse end of it, Jamie, and it's wrong. You're right. It's absolutely wrong, because if anybody went and did the research and looked at what they've got there, looked at what's being said, looked at all the information that's out there, you'd write that all down and you'd go, I cannot see any option on the table here that says we are dropping to 3 sides. And so by Dragon signing does nothing to affect the position that the Scarlets and Ospreys now find themselves in. It was the Scarlets and Ospreys' decision not to sign that document. It was nothing to do with the Dragons at all. We all had the same information. We all got given the same pieces of information at the same time and the same promises. Dragons went, do you know what? For us, that's fine. That's good. We'll go with that. And I'm in the same boat as Nick, where I'm going, okay, I want to know what the issue with the Scarlets and the Ospreys was. We've asked for comment from the club, and we've been told nobody's saying anything to anyone, and that includes the press, until this is all locked down and finished and dusted. So that's a message I've been given today, that best will in the world, we won't be coming on the podcast and having a very honest chat with you with that. What I will say about your podcast, Jamie, and they won't hear this on there, and hopefully if I've done my editing job well, they won't know this, but I just want to share this story because it's really good. About halfway through the info, about half an hour into that interview, they're having a chat, and Gav asks Buttress a question, and he goes, "Oh, hang on a minute, boys. Can we pause it there, remote? My takeaways just arrived."
I Just Eat. Yeah, you couldn't make it up, could you? David Buttress, the founder of Just Eat, had a takeaway delivered from Just Eat. So we had to pause the pod, wait for him to collect it.
That was delivered. That was just put a plug.
You couldn't make it up.
It's been here's
my bag. Like I'm not having you on. Here's my bag with my takeaway in and stuff. So
yeah, you could make it up. But
top guy.
Lee, there's a lot of emotion on social media around this. And again, there's a lot of worried supporters, but this is an example of emotions taking over the facts. Feelings are not facts. And like I said, I wish people will listen. Don't just read Wales Online column, listen to the podcast, because then you'll have a bigger understanding. Because believe me, if I felt the Dragons, right, had shafted the other clubs, I'd call it out. I am very critical of the Dragons. Anyone who listens to me on Dragons Day, right, I've called out the board for sack and die. I called them out for their recruitment. I called them out recently. They made a promise that we'd sign a marquee player. They're not going to honour it now. I understand the situation has changed, but I'm very critical of the Dragons when they get things wrong. And if I thought for 1 minute we'd done a shady deal or we shafted the other clubs, I'd fucking call them out on it big time. I really would. But I think we've done the right thing, because we've done the right business decision for the stakeholders, supporters, and the business. It's the right thing to do, but I just hope there's a resolution from all this, because it's dragging on, and I'm sick of the shit that's being thrown at us and the infighting and arguing.
Can I just make a general point about the podcast? So we're independent, and we should be able to, even for our own clubs, if we don't think things have been doing well, we should say it. And if they're not prepared to listen to a little bit of criticism, that tells me about the actual club and the environment that they're working in. If things aren't going well, or there are aspects of the club that we think could be improved, they should be listening to that, not just us, small fans.
Yeah. And I have hammered the I honestly thought someone from the Dragons would get in touch with me, because I have been very critical. But no, Buttress agreed with everything I said.
Yeah.
Yet he didn't have a leg to stand on. He knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just quickly, because I feel once again, Carl is just being pushed to the side and have no actual say in what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's quite true,
actually. Yeah.
It'd be really easy for all us Cardiff fans to go stop putting out a thing about saying the only reason the Ospreys and Scots someone aside is because they actively want to see us go under. They actively want Cardiff to be underfunded and to have failed, because they want to steal our players. it'd be very easy for us to start pushing that narrative. But to be honest, what we're doing is keeping quiet and hoping for the love of God we get the money we need. And someone buys us. Because there's not a single Cardiff fan who wants us to stay under WRU ownership. We all want the private owner to come over this summer.
I know
it's
that
probably
feeling.
not going to happen, not with the price tag WRU have put on it.
I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah. I don't think that, that's saying I think the Dragons owners understand us. They know what it's like to be on that side of the fence. So they know that the accusations are just going to keep coming at Cardiff because I don't know, one of the seats in the North Stand's broken, and WU pay the 50 pence to, pay 50 pence extra to put that in. The Scarlets and the Ospreys be like, oh, where's our 50 pence? Because let's be honest, there are plenty of Cardiff fans who did the exact same thing when the Dragons were there. Yep. I get that. I am aware of the glass house I am currently standing in. But at the same time,
that's the problem, though,
as the point Josh made last week or the week before, whenever we did that pod, it's like, yeah, but if giving Cardiff a little bit of extra money means great, we get rid of them over, and in the long run, there's more money. Because let's be fair, as soon as W can get rid of us, they will recoup some money. Because once they've sold the club, they will have some money. And some of that's going to get absorbed into their own debt and stuff. But then there's a little bit more to put to the other clubs if needed. But right now, this is the money you're getting. There's going to be no change of that. Yes, because they're the benefactor, they're probably going to have to pay Cardiff more. To me, as I said on that pod, I've got a feeling, knowing the way the WRU are cutting costs, they're not going to turn this into a super club. They are going to try as hard as possible to make sure they don't have to put any more money in. Because that seems to be the way they're going, is to make sure they're putting the bare minimum in so that they, to keep the clubs competitive, because in their self-interest, it means a stronger international team. That's it. I don't see this whole thing of like, oh, they're going to rob all our best players. Scarlets are getting rid of all their homegrown talent anyway.
No, it's a talent.
Sorry, I do not believe that for a second. But I just had to just because I can see a vein starting to pulsate out of his head. That's all that is.
Yeah, my point was going to be that exactly what you said. Where you guys should know what it's like. You guys shouldn't be giving Dragons boy shit because Dragons have been in the same boat and all of that kind of malarkey. There are Cardiff supporters hurling stuff at Scarlets and Ospreys and all of that for various different things. My point was going to be is we've all got dickheads in our supporters groups. We've all got people in our supporters groups that'll go, do you know what? This will really wind them up. I'm going to put something out now, right? And it's going to absolutely be a firework for the next hour, right? Let's go into. We've all got people like that in our club. The trick is to know who they are and to kind of take everything they say with a pinch of salt. And I know that I've seen some Scarlets boys putting, ridiculous stuff out and then laughing about it, where somebody takes that the other side, it ain't funny. Then that comes back on. So, if you're going to throw stuff out, you've got to take stuff back in. And that's where they're not very good at like taking stuff back in. And we all know we've got certain people in parts of each of our club that can dish stuff out and absolutely will not take that backward step to say, okay, look, I'm just messing. I'll take it back in. So that's part of the problem, where there are too many people thinking this is funny, thinking this is an opportunity to improve their standing within the supporters clubs or whatever it is. And it's not. It's just not. I'm going to park it there for a second, and we're going to move on to Ospreys. So before we move on to Ospreys, Nick, explain to me why. So you can see there that the Dragons very well. This is taken off their social media. They're well-produced player of the season and a nice, pretty picture of Aaron Wainwright, and it's kind of done right, yeah. And then we get this from the Ospreys. And I'm not fully understanding why everyone turned up in shorts and t-shirts to the Osprey. Did they not tell them that there was a presentation evening?
Well, the brief was smart casual, in keeping with the Mediterranean climate you have in Swansea. So therefore, it was shorts and t-shirts, and it was to appeal to the younger crowd, and so therefore they dressed appropriately for that.
Okay. So, so because the Ospreys just put out these photos, your actual player awards. See, Mark Jones there, he's got a jacket on.
He made a bit
You
of an
can
effort, didn't he?
you
Just to
can
show
tell he spent
seniority.
yeah, he spent time in North Wales, mate. He's still feeling the cold from being up north. That's what it is. So there's your list
Yeah. Well, we're going to be
of
doing something
awards.
similar. It's very difficult when you've got such an outstanding player, not to give everything to Jack Morgan. You know, he's streets ahead, the best Welsh rugby player currently playing. Uh, so it's, he's outstanding player. He's a British Lion. So there's no shock there. He's very well thought of in the club. Try of the season was for Dan Edwards early doors. That was against the Stormers, but it's a very good try. Jack Walsh has been revelation at 15. Was flirting the position over the last couple of years. If you remember, like this time last year, Max Nagy was being name was put forward trying to decide whether he was Welsh qualified. And they were before the team squad was announced for Australia. He was in discussions, and so he's been outstanding. And sort of the way we want to play certainly offers that second distributor option. So yeah, all those lads have done well, and obviously I don't know anything about Joelle's work. I think she's done some of the work on the. I know you were a bit critical early on in the season about some of the like playing cards, sort of top trumps. Again, in fairness, I think that was something to do with trying to appeal to the younger crowd, and I've seen them given out on the rugby camps they do during school holidays. So yeah, so pretty much as expected, really.
So, what about your season as a whole? Then, how would you encapsulate your season?
Uh,
Obviously, starting with Toby Booth and then
Yeah, well,
what?
that's that. I think that was a bit. That was a strange decision, and I think it backfired on us. Even though they tried to manage it. If you remember, there's that interview with Lance Bradley in Langland, overlooking the lighthouse there, where they were trying to say this is all planned. It didn't seem that way, and we had a poor start. Was that anything to do with anything? Personally, I blame the bloody Dragons. But
All our fault. It's all the Dragons' fault.
we had some poor results early season. We turned it round. We had some outstanding wins going to Glasgow and beating them up there. First home defeat in the URC for 3 seasons. So there's been some really good wins. There's been disappointing losses. It was always hard once we lost to Zebra away and that Dragons game, which I think even Jamie will probably, Dragons fans, you know, best the team won because they finished the game on point with points ahead. But those 2 games probably cost us in the end. Uh, it was a team. It was an ups and downs season, and the league doesn't lie, does it? And as we obviously made more of an effort in the Cup, the Challenge Cup. Whether that was in hindsight the best thing to do, I don't know. I'm glad the season's over really, and hopefully we can build on what on this season, and with our one signing, Ryan Smith, we can do better next year.
Okay, so let's move on to Cardiff then, Harley, because you've got snazzy thingamajigs. You've not got pretty pictures. You have got a snazzy presentation. but you've not got pretty pictures. So, you know,
Cardiff
kind
fans
of
know what their players look like.
that is a point. That is a point there as well. There is a point. So, do you want to talk through any surprises or any awards that you want to have a look through, and then we'll talk through your season?
I mean, so Teddy Williams, Peter Thomas player of the season, so that's the coach's player, and that's basically what the coach's player is. And it's the award's now a legacy award, the late great Peter Thomas. You can't argue against Teddy; he's just brilliant. I think he also picked up the fans player of the season again. He just looks so much above the URC level. You know, squad people banging the drum on him for international honours. He's just so good. Players player of the season, Alan Lawrence. So he's been, for someone who didn't have a contract 18 months ago, again, hard to argue. He's done so much of that culture. He is just an absolute workhorse. He is the epitome of what you want for a squadman. Like you probably will never hear him in international conversations or a sense in Belgium. But it just his work rate, the fact that he was like, right, and when Falatau had his injury, he was there playing 8 week in, week out, doing a fantastic job. It was like, oh, we're short on sixes, I'll play 6. Oh, we need a second row, fine, I'll play the second row. And he was doing it all to equal aplomb, carrying hard, really abrasive. I said, Teddy, this is the supportive player of the season. Teddy Williams just after that. Which one good in? Isn't it? As per the season. Yeah, everyone knows Teddy. My personal favourite for that would have been Josh McNally. Reece Barrett, breakthrough player of the season. Again, unfortunately, he got injured, but I thought he was doing, he came on to see he was playing really well. Matty Young, the Academy player of the season, absolutely fantastic arrived at fullback. A couple of the hardcore Cardiff RFC supporters said that if he'd been playing against Newport, it might have actually done enough to change the game. But unfortunately, he was torn with us instead. The Harry Mirror try versus Munster. So that's the one with a cross-field kick with there's a bit of debate whether it was Sheedy or Ben Thomas who did the crossfield kick. Gabe Hamerweb gets it, draws 2 Munster players, just before it goes into touch, offloads to Falatau, who has that absolutely searing break, but with no one jumping out of the tackle, so the try stands. Offloads it to Harry Millard, who scores on the score. Harry Millard, who finished the regular season top try scorer in the URC. Just, it's absolutely wonderful try. Lovely. Karen, I think that's all the awards. I don't think, how could I forget? Razor Ray, the special recognition award for spending the majority of it, the best part of a decade, if not a bit more, at the Capital Club. As mentioned previously in the pod, he's going to be hanging around. I mean, just what a man! Even when he was on one leg at times this season, getting us out of trouble, getting to the overs or making a pass. I can't. I mean, the amount of times when I've been standing on the southwest terrace and you jump him and Halahalo as well would jump over hoardings, come chat with all the fans after games, and just huge part of the community and the fabric, part of our Pacific Island mafia that's sort of grown around to the Vale of Glamorgan now. There are not enough words. I cannot articulate how brilliant my Ray Lilly has been both this season and every season he's played for us. And then not on this spreadsheet. I think that's the end of the official awards anyway. We also had the much more coveted Cardiff Central Podcast Awards last night. Unsurprisingly, some of these overlap. So, Try of the Season was the Miller versus Munster one. Player of the Season is Teddy McNally because they can't decide between Teddy Williams and Josh McNally. McNally is also our best new signing. And then we've got the Performance of the Season for us, which is Ulster at home, which I'm going to go into a bit more when we talk about Cardiff season in total. And then a new award, which we've basically taken the old most improved player and made it something that sounds a little bit less derogatory, which is best value for money of the season. And for that, we've gone for Big Al Lawrence again, for all the reasons I mentioned why he's player of the season. So that's the awards all wrapped up. I think I said the Twitter poll's still going. For if you want to pick between Teddy Williams and Josh McNally, I'd be leaning to give it to Teddy Williams because Josh McNally already has one of the Cardiff Central Awards.
We're going to get to a stage where we're actually going to have to start giving people awards because people are going to start saying, I won an award on your podcast and I haven't actually received anything. So, I can see that coming.
You hold the purse strings. If you want to knock up some plaques or whatever, you can just start delivering to the house. I mean, Josh McNally now does follow Cardiff Central Podcast, So yeah, I think they definitely have to club together for a case of beer or something.
So what about the season as a whole then, Harley? How has it felt riding the roller coaster that is Cardiff Rugby this year?
It's it's been a bit of an interesting because if you ask any Cardiff fan last start of the season said you're gonna finish off, you're gonna just miss out on the playoffs, but you're gonna get 8 wins and a draw. All right, Europe wasn't particularly great. Our challenge campaign was a bit awful. I think we lent a bit too much on the rotation side of things. We didn't pan out. But 8 things. We either maintained or increased our points tally on all but 3 games this season. So basically, we lost points against Sharks, Bulls, and Stormers. With Bulls and Stormers being us playing away as opposed to home this season. Most people bite your hand off for it, but at the same time, considering how close we were to the playoffs, it is a bit disappointing. Like I feel like we should, it's probably our best chance to get knockout rugby for quite a while, certainly in the league. In terms of how it went, we've got the same now with the Sixers. We've seen for the last few years we've had incredibly easier front halves of the season. And I'll be honest, after the performances, both performance in Edinburgh, but the Glasgow as well, where we basically just got blown off the park for both those 2 games, that Ulster game was really pivotal. Going 19-0 down at half time and then rallying to get a win. That sort of melded, that sort of flipped season around for us to when, we finished at Christmas time third in the league and then we just slowly dropped down ever since. But I mean, overall positive. I know that people have called jockey out, but I think she's an idiot, generally, maybe. Yeah, I said it's overall positive. But I never thought I'd be disappointed with being ninth when I predicted ninth, being optimistic at the start of the season. As I said, I mean, Europe, I'm not so bothered about. It was just too much rotation. I mean, the biggest disappointment was playing Connacht 3 times and losing all 3. That really frustrated me.
Well, we'll come on to predictions shortly, I promise. So I'm just going to quickly flick through the Scarlets presentations as well. So Player of the Year, Blair Murray. I think most people can agree with that. Breakthrough Player was Ellis Mee as well on that. Max Page had a try against Zebra, which was half decent. Marnus van der Merwe, who I think has been the signing of the season for Welsh sides, that the guy's an absolute animal. Anyone that had to step in and take over where Ken Owens left off, and the guy's done it, pretty well, to the point where he is expected to be named in the Springbok summer squad as well. And then Josh McLeod as Coach's Player of the Year. I don't think we can underestimate how much work Josh McLeod has got through this year. The difference between him playing and not playing has been phenomenal. Grown as a captain as well as a player. So, I think he's second or third in turnovers, and I think he missed 4 games or 5 games with an injury. Go on, Harley, you're gonna.
I just realized we completely ignored him during the Wales squad. I think that's just because of how obvious the choice he was to be in that Wales squad. But because a lot of people saying, "Oh, why no Jim Botham?" And I said Josh McLeod is the reason why, because they're very similar. In fact, they cover the whole back row. But Josh McLeod has been outstanding. That absolutely. I made a lot of jokes about him. Well, is he after the first few weeks? Oh, well, it's fine for the first few weeks, and then he breaks down, and that's it. But he's shown his resilience this year. It seems like he's gotten over all those niggles. I don't know if it's because they similar with what with Adams and Falatow and held them back until he was 100% sure they were fit. Because he's just been brilliant. And it's the Josh McLeod that was getting that he needs to be picked for Wales calls back in the before payback. Yeah.
And when you look at our weakness last year was our pack, and now we've got, Hepburn, Van der Merwe, and Henry Thomas as a front row. You've got Lousy and whoever happens to fill in the second row, and then back row you've got McLeod, Plumtree, and Fafita. That's not a bad pack. If you're putting that pack out, that's a fairly hefty pack. And then you've got people like Dan Davis to come in. You've got Ryan Elias in as hooker. You could quite comfortably say that our backs are all singing, all dancing, lovely, dazzly boys with diamonds on the soles of their shoes when they cross the line and all of that. But these are the boys that are doing the hard work, and they've been led really, really well by McLeod. And you can see the difference on the pitch when he's not there. And that's no disrespect to all the other boys who've stepped in as captain when he hasn't been there. But when he is there, he's absolutely bang on. So, for me, I think last season, I think we finished 14th, 13th or 14th last year. So to jump 6 places in the league this year has been phenomenal. I think a lot of that goes down to Lee Jones and the work that's been going on off the pitch. The medical team this year has been absolutely superb. Players have come back from injury a lot stronger. They've avoided a lot of injuries as well, and that medical change round has apparently come from Lee Jones as well. So sometimes the stuff off the pitch is what leads. I think it facilitates what happens on the pitch. And as you boys were talking through your season, it's like the Dragons changed the coach mid-season. Ospreys changed the coach mid-season. Cardiff have had financial issues through the season, which culminated at the end of the season. We've had no dramas through the year. There's been nothing. It's been solid. It's been steady. It's allowed the players to focus on playing the game. And I think that might be a lesson for all of us, including the WIU, when we have got in Wales, not just in the Scarlets, but in Wales, we have got more than enough players to develop a international winning side if we let them do it and we don't give them all these tons of distractions off the pitch. And I think that's what Scarlets have done really, really well this year, is they've got the stuff off the pitch sorted. When you hear players talk now, they talk about a tight unit, they talk about togetherness in the changing room. Let's not forget, we didn't win a game until week 4. Yeah, we drew 1, lost 2 by a point, and then we pretty much lost, I think, 6 games by less than 3 points through that first half of the season. So the season could have been very, very different with a couple of kicks here, there, and everywhere. So to get to where we are, it feels a little bit disappointing because we could have been a bit better. But then you look at where we were last year and where we are now, and you go, do you know what? Yeah, if somebody had said to us at the end of last season, don't worry, next season you'll be in the playoffs, you'd go, absolutely, I'll take that. That's not a problem at all. So for me, yeah, I mean, my heart rate hasn't improved through this season because of the amount of tight games, the amount of close games that we've had. But it's been an enjoyable season because we never felt like we were getting battered, which is very, very different to the season before. We never felt like any game was really getting away from us, apart from probably Ospreys on not Boxing Day. That was probably the one game where it just felt, okay, this isn't going right and nothing's happening here. So other than that, games have been competitive. They've been good to watch. And I've enjoyed the season. So I'm just going to give a quick plug to myself as well for a video that we put out last Saturday, which kind of goes back into a little bit of the stuff that we were talking earlier, where Jamie was talking about watch the podcast and understand what's actually being said. So I did a video on Saturday where I basically read through the PRA agreement, the PRA statement. And this is what the WRU have said. And I read it through line by line. Nowhere in there does it say 3 sides. I would encourage everybody, if you're not going to watch my video, which is fine, I won't take that personally at all. But please do go and read that statement and read it line by line, and then read the Scarlets and Ospreys statement. Nowhere in that Scarlets and Ospreys statement does it say we blame the Dragons or we blame Cardiff. Nowhere in there is it anything else other than we've made a decision that we think is right for our club, and we're going to stick to it. Nowhere in that WRU statement does it say we're dropping a team. It talks about a different funding structure going forward. End of. I would encourage every single person watching and listening to tonight's pod to go and read that statement with an open mind, with a willing mind that goes, okay, let's forget about what's been said and let's actually look at what it's saying here, because you will not see the term 3 teams or dropping a team or getting rid of a team. You will not see those words in any of those statements going forward. Okay, right.
Just before you move on, I agree. Just looking at that picture of Josh McLeod, obviously on one side you've got the Scarlets badge. What's that? What's the badge on the other side? The shirt makers.
Bugger off, Nick. Right. So apparently, a couple of weeks ago, when the VX3 thing was announced, I said Macron instead of Castor. I ain't got a clue, Nick. Sometimes I just make stuff up on the spot, mate, and it sounds good.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nobody's corrected me. I'll just keep going with it, Yeah, I did. I got it wrong. I have no idea why. I don't even remember talking about it. I'll be honest with you, mate. So, yes, but much hilarity was had from friends and fellow podcasters on the fact that I can't even remember who manufactures the kit that we're not going to be wearing next season on that one. Next year's easiest, VX3. Right, okay. We promised you to finish off that we would do reviews of where we said teams would be at the start of the season. So, Harley, this is yours, mate. Talk us through it and how close you think that is to where everyone ended up.
Basically, all utterly wrong, other than Cardiff came ninth in the league. Everything else, terribly wrong. I expected Ospreys to be much stronger than they were. That didn't happen. Didn't expect Scarlets' mishmash of pack and just, people were to do as well as they had. And once again, I have been foiled by expecting the Dragons to not be as terrible as they were. And that's ended up really. I said I expected Cardiff to have put a bit more of a better effort in the Challenge Cup than they didn't do.
But you had the Ospreys to win the Challenge Cup, mate.
I mean, bear in mind now they were the top ranked club in the Challenge. So they were second in the Challenge Cup after Connacht. So they had home knockouts all the way to the final, and then they fucked it up in the quarters. How did I not predict Ospreys to fuck it up in the European quarter? It's like Ireland fucking up a World Cup quarter.
Disgraceful, isn't it? Right. Next, we had mine. So, to be honest, other than the Dragons, which
someone was on crack when they did this. Someone was smoking something. Dragon's knife. Jesus fuck.
Do you know what? I genuinely thought so we did this before the start of the season, and then you played the first week of the season and you beat the Ospreys, and I was like, here we go. This is it. I've hit on something here. Yeah, I mean, I had Scarlets and Cardiff being fairly close. I did think the Ospreys would be a bit stronger this year, I'll be honest. And as with everyone else, I thought the Dragons I thought this was the season that the Dragons were going to start turning things around, and I failed on that.
I've been thinking that for the past 10 years, Lee. So I don't know why you thought it.
I just had a feeling that this was going to be the year. So, but Scarlets in 7th, we ended up 8th. I can live with that. Cardiff in 6th, I predicted. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, I predicted, and we were 8th, 9th, 12th, and 16th. So, not too bad. Right. Yeah, so Nick, you got landed with this one because this was James's one, and you can see I've kind of patched your name over there as well. But this, I mean, you'll get your chance to do this one next year as well. But yeah, Osprey's sixth and everyone else down the bottom of the table. So there's not really much you can say on that one, Nick, was it? So, but you'll have a chance to have a crack at that next year. And then Jamie. So, I mean, come on, Jamie.
Well, look, let me
13th.
just explain. So I put Dragons in 14th. I've never had grand expectations for my team. And you know that. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to say, yeah, I think we can give the playoffs a good crack. I think we're going to win X amount of games. I knew we would struggle. Obviously, I didn't expect us to struggle to the extent that we did. 20 points behind Zebra, the injuries. I didn't expect Di Flanagan to be parted company with after just 6 games and the chaos. I thought the recruitment we did at the time was decent. It wasn't. It was a disaster, as we know. Guys like Lloyd Evans and Harry Wilson were flops, and Funaki never played a game and all the rest of it. So, yeah, very disappointing. I didn't think 14th was an outlandish prediction, to be honest. Scarlet's 13th and Cardiff 12th. Look, they have done better than I thought. I think Scarlets and Cardiff, actually, they recruited well. I think this is the reason why they had good seasons. Cardiff were very smart in who they signed. Josh McNally has been fantastic for them. Callum Sheedy has been good. Johan Mulder, you know, he was what, third, fourth choice, Ali, and look at him now. He's overtaken Alec Davis. Again, just smart recruitment, everything the Dragons didn't do. And the Scarlets, their credit, again, they bolstered their pack. We talked about it pre-season. Now, the Scarlets pack was weak and they needed bolstering. They brought in some very good overseas players. And I'm pleased for Dwayne Peel because Dwayne Peel's copped a lot of flack, as you know, from supporters. They were all calling from his head, but he's done incredibly well. And I think bringing in Lee Jones, I think, alongside Dwayne Peel. Was he performance director, is he? Was that his role?
Yeah,
Something like that?
he's something like above and to the side and below Dwayne. He kind of like wraps him in cotton wool and does the
Yeah.
stuff that allows him to coach.
Very experienced guy. And I think that was a smart acquisition from the Scots to bring him in from Leicester Tigers. As for the Ospreys, yeah, I thought they'd be the top region. I still think, actually, they've got the best squad out of all 4 regions. But the whole Toby Booth thing, you do wonder, I know Ali has mentioned this as well, you do wonder maybe they should have parted company with Toby Booth sooner or made that decision. And that Mark Jones in from the start of the season. If there was any doubt at all going into the season, maybe they should have just said, look, Toby, thank you for everything, but we want to start the season with Mark Jones. It's been disappointing from Ospreys. They've had their moments, but I think they'll admit, and Nick will say as well, I think it has been a disappointing season for them. But they have got a very good squad. I expect them to be competing a lot stronger for the playoffs than they have done. So basically, it comes down to Scarlets and Cardiff doing better than I expected. Ospreys didn't do as well as I expected. And the Dragons, well, I never had high expectations, but it was a total disaster. Shockingly bad, as David Buttress said. No excuses. Well, there are a few excuses. Well, no, actually, there are a few excuses, and I just mentioned injuries and all that. But you know what I mean. Some of the performances were pretty subpar. But then again, we could have won 6 games. We've talked about it. Should have beaten the South African teams at home, Cardiff, Scarlets, Ulster. Those were games that should have been won, and we didn't. So could have, would have, should have.
Onwards to next season. So Nick,
yes.
I promise you, Nick, you will have a chance to do this for yourself for the start of next season, and you'll get to the end of next season and you'll go, that was a fucking waste of time, wasn't it? Look how far off I am, because that's where we normally end up on that. Okay, right.
Very quickly. No excuses next season.
No. Pressure's on me.
It's on me for the 3-peat.
All right, Harley, we get it. You're very good at predicting results. Bastard. Right, we'll start with you then, Harley, on the one team left playing. So give us a very quick expectation of this weekend and a score prediction, if you can, please, Harley.
Oh, Leinster are going to batter them by about 50. Oh, wait, no, that's what I want to happen. Yeah, I think Scott. In all seriousness, I think Scott's going to struggle because Leinster are going to go for more. I know it was a 2-1 sort of more 1.5 team for the game. There's still plenty of Irish internationals in the team that beat the Cardiff Scarlets. And I think on the Scarlet side of things, no Gareth Davis is going to be a huge loss. It just is. He's been so essential that as good a as good a performance as Archie Hughes has done when he's played, it's not been enough. There's not been enough game time. Gareth Davis has been so far and away the only guy at 9 in Scots this season that it was always going to be a case of if he goes, there's going to be problems. And I do see that. I do think they're going to struggle in full noise without his game management and mouse. As brilliant as Cusso's been since he's come back, I don't think Hughes or whoever random import number 73 is the other scrum half, whose name I can't remember because I just don't. He's either not played or played so few minutes. I just have no impression of him. It's just I can see maybe still by like 24. I think they're going to really want to put out a statement after getting knocked out in the Champions Cup.
Okay. So, Nick, through gritted teeth, you'll be watching. So, expectations and forecast, the prediction score for this weekend.
No, actually, you're quite wrong there, Lee, because my fellow Westphalian team in our anti-Welsh Rugby Union establishment, it's a really tough game, isn't it? And Leinster not winning this again in Europe has put a lot of emphasis in this game. I do think the Scarlet's got nothing to lose, and I think should they be able to stay in the game in the first half, I think there would be a bit of mental pressure on the Leinster. Unfortunately, I do think if Leinster get a good start, scored a couple of tries in the first quarter, I think it could be a long night. I do think the Scarlets are well capable of scoring a couple of good tries, but you're probably going to need to score 20 points plus just to be in the game, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that in Dublin.
Okay, so your prediction would be
probably Leinster by 20 in the end.
Leinster by 20. Okay, Jamie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think whatever happens, Scarlets can hold their heads high. I think they've had a very good season. Like I said, kudos to Dwayne Peel and the coaching team. Gareth Davis missing for the Scarlets, we can't overlook that. It's a huge blow. It really is. Tag Furlong and Robbie Henshaw have been ruled out, though, for Leinster. But they've got the depth from there and they've got the power to cope with those absentees. I would love Scarlets to go there and turn Leinster over because it'd be very funny, wouldn't it? I don't hate Leinster like a lot of people do, but can you imagine how funny it would be after being knocked out of the Champions Cup by Northampton? They are going to be smarter from that. But if they lost to the Scarlets in Dublin, that would be a total disaster for Leinster. There would be some sackings, wouldn't it? That would not be acceptable. But no, I think Scarlets will give it a good crack. Like Nick said, they probably will score some tries, but I think this will be a game too far for them. And I think Leinster hell-bent on avenging that loss against Northampton. So I'm going to go for Leinster by 17 points.
By 17. Okay.
Yeah. Just on the funniness, I laughed for a solid hour after that Northampton game. I will laugh the entire weekend if Scarlets turn on over. I will not be able to stop. I am petty. I don't care. I am very petty in that respect.
Oh, poor Leinster. I don't mind Leinster, but it would be fun, admittedly.
Poor is the one word you can't use to describe.
No, that's true. Wealthy Leinster.
Well, for me, we've beaten them once this year because we gave them absolutely no respect where they didn't deserve it. We stood up to them and we fought with them. And I think if we can do that again for the first 20 minutes and rattle them, really get under the skin, really kind of not let them. What we did was we took some quick lineouts, we took some cheeky lineouts, we did some weird things off tap penalties, we did the unexpected, and it completely threw them. And they were complaining to the ref because they weren't getting the rub of the green, which is absolutely, unheard of in Leinster terms, where the referee isn't in their back pocket. I'm hearing rumours of disquiet in Irish rugby and in Leinster rugby, and it might just be our year. It might just be that time where we're coming into form. They've had a couple of iffy games. Things are not going right. Players have either their heads are on the Lions tour or they're on a beach in Barbados or whatever, and their heads just aren't in the game. What we will know is that we're up for it. You know, Scarlet's boys are absolutely up for this. There's a very amount of supporters going over as well. I think that's the difference in playing Leinster as opposed to playing the Stormers down in South Africa again. It's a short trip over on the ferry. So yeah, you know, it's going to be an enjoyable occasion. I'm on the fence as to, yeah, I would love to see us turn them over. I would absolutely love to see us turn them over. We've done it before. We played Leinster and Munster away to win our championship way back in 2017, 16, 17, whichever one we won. So you know, I would love to see that kind of attitude again. My worry is the bench, where, like we said about Gareth Davis, whereas Gareth Davis went off. Okay, we've got Archie Hughes to come on. If Archie Hughes goes off now, I think it's
Evan Jones, isn't it?
Yeah. Is he? Yeah,
if he's still there.
Yeah, I think he is.
So this is the thing I forgot his name.
Yeah, me too. To be honest, I think he's played.
He's literally just been there. If Scrum half's injured, he goes on. That's it. He's not been used even tactically.
No, I think he's played like 60 minutes the whole season or something like that. Which I can't, I kind of feel for the guy. But Gareth Davis has been just phenomenal this year, and he said himself, stepping down from international rugby has probably extended his rugby career by 2 or 3 seasons. So yeah, I think if we can rattle them in the first 20 minutes, I think we're in with a shout, and who knows where you go from there. It's cup rugby. But it is a big task, and this is what we play rugby for. We play rugby for the big games. These are the bits we look forward to. So I'm going to look forward to it. I've already booked my place on the sofa. I built a protective hub for the dogs behind the sofa, so they don't have to avoid my slippers when I'm throwing them at the telly. I've got a shopping list of beer and at least 4 tubes of Pringles to get me through the game. So we're all set, boys. We're all set. So my prediction for this game is...
Oh, don't say it. For God's sake, don't say it.
Scottish by 1.
Oh.
Say the line,
I knew he'd say it. I knew he'd say it. Oh, Lee. I'm not going to miss that. That's one thing I'm not going to miss on this pod.
Right. Okay. Well, on that note, gents, we are coming to the end. So, Jamie, I'm going to give you the floor for a little while, for as long as you need, and then to say goodbye, and then I will say goodbye as well, and we'll go from there, mate. So, is there anything you want to say to the thousands of followers that you have developed over the last couple of years?
Thank you for the support, I guess. I don't know. Maybe some would be delighted not to hear me on this pod ever again. I don't know. But look, I want to thank you, Lee, for giving me the opportunity to speak on rap. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a good experience. It's allowed me to speak to people who I never thought I'd speak to. Obviously, David Buttress through the Dragon Slayer, Colin Jarvis, Ian Goff, guys like that. I've had fun doing this pod. It's been a laugh. We haven't taken it too seriously. I'm not going to lie, it is difficult speaking to you lot when the Dragons lose every week. It feels more comfortable on the Dragons legs. It feels more like a therapy session. But when I have to come on here as well and speak to you guys, it's harder. It's not been easy. I haven't enjoyed this season whatsoever. Not just because of the Dragons, but Welsh rugby as a whole. I think it's been a really dark, grim, joyless season on and off the field. That's why I'm not doing any more pods this summer now. I've had enough. I'm not doing any more. It's just depressing. But yeah, I've had to bring this to an end because home life is getting in the way. You know, I have a child and a puppy now to look after, and they're taking up a lot of attention. Dragon Slayer is easier for me to do on a Sunday. And we are going to continue with Dragon Slayer, by the way, because I've had a lot of messages from people asking if we're going to do it next season. Because to be fair, Lee, as you know, when you asked me to do Dragons, like, no, I'm not doing a Dragons pod. I'm not interested. I talk about the Dragons enough on rap. I am not doing a separate pod. And I honestly thought that nobody was going to listen to it. My attitude was, who cares? Like who would care about listening to us? But apparently people do care. We've got a good listener support base now, Lee, as you were telling me, and loads of messages saying, "Oh, don't give up, continue." So I am going to focus more on Dragons Lee, though I will pop up on you from time to time if you need a blood replacement. But try to get me on if the Dragons win, which will only be once or twice next season. That's fine, the odd occasion. But yeah, look, Dan's going to be great. He's been on you before, as we know. He's good. He'll offer a fresh perspective. He'll talk a lot about Abertillery, I'm sure. I know he's very passionate about the game not being sustainable across the globe. That seems to be something he talks about a lot in the group chat. But no, he's a good guy. He'll do a good job. And yeah, I'll still keep in touch with you guys, as you know. I'm not leaving rap completely, but I'm just taking a step back because, committing to a pod every week, it's not easy, actually, when you have to commit to one or two. It does take up a lot of your time. It is a big commitment. People don't realize that. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been good fun with you guys. But yeah, I'm going to take a step back now. So yeah, just thanks again to you, Lee, and to you, Nick and Ali, and the other guys that have been on rap. James, Old Carwin. What was the Cardiff fan name? Reese, wasn't it? Yeah, Reese. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Reese, I forgot your name. Sorry about that. But yeah, I've enjoyed talking to you. It's been fun.
Cool. And from my point of view, mate, when we started this, we made a point that we wanted to have one from all of the regions. And it started as a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke. And when you came on board, and it kind of like that was it. Then the jigsaw was complete. And it felt like it got a bit more serious. We started taking things serious, and
I told you to. That's why I was quite.
Yeah.
I did have to raise standards a little bit, didn't I? Because yeah.
Well, that was it. We were having a bit of fun and a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke. And like I said, me and Old Carwin went back a few years, so we just automatically fell into that bit. And then you came along and kind of went, actually, boys, you've got something here. We can make this into something that is right up there with the big boys. And there were some iffy times in those first couple of seasons where things didn't go right because we were learning. We literally learning. Everything we've done with the podcast, we've learned from scratch, and a lot of it I'm still learning. I'll be honest, but you were always the force to move it forward. You were always the one that kind of said, actually, boys, we can up this and we can move this forward. So for me, it's a heartfelt, genuine thank you, because I think without you, we probably would have done one season, maybe 1.5 seasons, and we'd be nowhere near where we are now.
I used to book the guests. Do you remember that when we had guests on?
Yeah. Nobody will come now because they're scared of you. But
I saved them all for Dragon's Lair. It doesn't bother with us now.
Yeah,
I know. I'm struggling for guests on Dragon's Lair now. I kind of shot my load a little bit because I had a load of guests in season 1 and 2, and now I'm struggling to get people to come on now. But, I've enjoyed it.
Let's start picking up random people from all the community clubs.
Probably will.
A genuine, heartfelt thank you for being part of the rap family. I say you'll still be around, and no doubt will be popping up every now and again. But for me, I haven't been the one that was here and brought people on and seen people go and all of that. It does genuinely feel like I've made a friend through rugby, and when we catch up on Judgment Day, which we won't be able to next year,
not anymore.
So we'll have to find another excuse.
You have to get to Rodney Parade, Lee. I know I know you're not sure where Newport is. It's a bit of a back end and beyond for you, isn't it? Traveling that far, you might get a nosebleed traveling to Newport. But
it genuinely, just even catching up on Judgment Day, it never felt like talking to a stranger. It always felt like talking to a friend. So for that, my friend, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you'll be sorely missed on rap. Dan's going to do a cracking job, but from me and everybody else here, a big thank you to you. A big thank you to everybody else who is listening. If you want to send Jamie some messages on social media, please do. Be more than happy to pass them on. And all that's left for me to say is enjoy your rugby. We shall see you next week. All the best, guys.
Be off, Jamie. Be off, Jamie.
Thank you.
was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.